Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking developments in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In the early hours of the morning, Ukrainian drones carried out a daring strike on what Russia claimed was one of its most secure and advanced military installations, a $500 million air defense base. This wasn't just another attack on supply lines or field units. This was a direct hit on the very system designed to keep Russia's skies safe. And what happened after the strike has left Moscow scrambling for answers. The attack unfolded under the cover of darkness, with dozens of drones approaching the base from multiple directions. Russian operators, confident in their defenses, initially dismissed radar blips as false alarms. But within moments, the drones broke through, slamming into critical components of the base. Explosions lit up the night sky, sending shockwaves through nearby towns. Videos quickly surfaced online, showing plumes of fire rising from radar domes and missile silos. It was a sight that shattered the illusion of Russian air superiority. What made the strike even more significant was its precision. Ukrainian officials later hinted that intelligence for the operation had been meticulously gathered over weeks, possibly with satellite assistance from allies. The drones didn't just hit random targets, they went straight for the base's heart, disabling radar systems, knocking out communications, and leaving the garrison disoriented. For a defense installation valued at $500 million, the vulnerability exposed was staggering. On the Russian side, panic spread quickly. Soldiers stationed at the base scrambled to extinguish fires and secure what equipment they could. Eyewitness accounts described chaos, ammunition stores detonating one after another, vehicles overturned by the blasts, and personnel fleeing into nearby fields. For those watching from outside, it was a humiliating scene for a military that prided itself on layered, impenetrable defenses. Moscow's official response came hours later, and it was predictable. State media downplayed the damage, claiming most drones were intercepted and only minor destruction occurred. But satellite images circulating online told a different story. Scorched radar arrays, collapsed hangars, and entire sections of the base rendered useless. The contrast between propaganda and reality only deepened questions within Russia about the competence of its military leadership. In Kyiv, the strike was celebrated as one of the boldest operations yet. Officials refrained from confirming direct involvement, but hinted that long-range precision and determination had once again proven effective. Social media erupted with clips of the burning base, accompanied by triumphant messages. For Ukrainians, who had endured relentless bombardments on their own cities, this moment felt like poetic justice. The hunter had become the hunted. Internationally, the strike drew immediate attention. Military analysts across Europe and the US described it as a game-changer, showing that Russia's billion-dollar defenses could be neutralized by relatively cheap, mobile drone technology. Questions began to swirl about how secure other high-value Russian sites really were. If Ukraine could reach a base of this magnitude, what else might be within its grasp? The financial and strategic cost to Russia was enormous. That $500 million base represented not just hardware, but years of investment, training, and planning. Its partial destruction left a glaring hole in regional defense, forcing Russia to redeploy resources from other fronts. This, analysts argued, could weaken Moscow's ability to sustain offensives elsewhere, giving Ukraine valuable breathing room. For Russian civilians, the news was a blow to morale. Many had believed the state narrative that their homeland was secure, that advanced defenses would shield them from the kind of terror Ukrainians faced daily. But the flames rising from the base told a different story. The war was no longer distant, and even Russia's strongest shields could be pierced. Fear and doubt began creeping into conversations across Moscow and beyond. Meanwhile, Ukraine's allies saw the attack as proof that continued support was paying off. Western governments praised the ingenuity of the operation and quietly reaffirmed their commitment to supplying drones, intelligence, and other critical tools. Behind closed doors, NATO officials analyzed the strike carefully, recognizing it as a blueprint for how asymmetric warfare could dismantle conventional military power. The strike's aftermath created ripple effects far beyond the battlefield. Russia was forced to convene emergency security meetings, with top generals and defense officials briefing the Kremlin on how such a breach was possible. Reports suggest that Vladimir Putin himself demanded accountability, pressing his commanders to explain how Ukrainian drones managed to outmaneuver systems touted as state-of-the-art. This pressure has sparked internal disputes within Russia's defense circles, with fingers pointing at both intelligence lapses and outdated technology. Ukrainian military strategists, meanwhile, framed the operation as part of a larger campaign to systematically dismantle Russia's confidence in its own defenses. Rather than focusing solely on frontline clashes, Kyiv has increasingly turned to drone warfare as a cost-effective way to strike deep into enemy territory. Each successful raid not only damages infrastructure, but also chips away at Russia's sense of invulnerability. The $500 million base strike became a symbol of that strategy, showing the world that size and price don't guarantee safety. Local residents near the destroyed base described a terrifying night. The thunderous explosions rattled homes, windows shattered, and fires burned for hours. Many were evacuated as emergency services struggled to contain the inferno. Russian authorities tried to restrict media coverage, but images quickly leaked online, undermining efforts to control the narrative. For ordinary Russians, it was a sobering reminder that the war they were told was under control was creeping closer to home. On the diplomatic front, the incident reignited debates about escalation. Russian officials accused Western powers of aiding the attack through intelligence sharing, warning that such direct involvement could lead to retaliation. NATO, however, dismissed these claims, reiterating that Ukraine had the right to defend itself and choose its methods of resistance. The tension highlighted the delicate balance, how far Ukraine could push without triggering broader confrontation. The strike also reignited discussions about the future of warfare. Analysts noted that relatively cheap drones had managed to inflict hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage. Traditional military doctrine, relying on expensive bases and hardware, looked increasingly vulnerable against swarms of adaptable, low-cost weapons. The success of this attack is likely to inspire similar tactics in conflicts far beyond Eastern Europe. Inside Ukraine, morale soared. Civilians celebrated online, sharing memes, messages of support, and videos mocking Russian defenses. For a population enduring constant shelling and blackouts, the victory carried immense symbolic weight. It was proof that their sacrifices weren't in vain, and that their nation could still strike decisive blows against a seemingly stronger enemy. By contrast, the blow to Russia's image was severe. For years, Moscow had marketed its military technology abroad, selling air defense systems to countries across the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Now the destruction of its own multi-million-dollar base raised doubts about the reliability of these systems. Defense contracts may come under scrutiny, potentially costing Russia billions in lost revenue and international trust. Ultimately, this single strike will be remembered not only for the destruction it caused, but for the message it sent. Ukraine demonstrated that resilience, innovation, and strategy could cut through even the most fortified defenses. Russia, despite its size and resources, found itself exposed, vulnerable, and humiliated. The war grinds on, but with every daring operation like this, the balance of perception shifts and the question grows louder. How long can Moscow sustain both the physical and psychological costs of this war?